This is part 2 of You Are Being Gamified. Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the FaceLikeTheSun channel. You might be wondering why the hashtag don't take the mark. Well, it's because I think we are growing ever closer to a time when the prophecies described in Revelation 13 about the mark and the worship of the image of the beast can take place at a much larger scale than ever before. What I'm going to discuss in this video is the infrastructure being put together for this next phase of the beast system. The distinctive quality about this new era of computing is regarding privacy and verification. We are headed into a world where all physical assets will become tied to an immutable public ledger that can't be forged or copied. And as of this recording, the technology that seems to be the wheels that will take us to that place is blockchain technology. There are several blockchain projects out there, and we will be doing some name analysis on a couple of them in this video. But consider a world where everything from your clothes to your pet plant to your college credits to your social security number to your health records to all the data you produce while using the various gateways of the internet to real estate to government policies, to corporations and their large mechanized farms to produce goods, and even perhaps such things being operated by an AI is all being maintained by a massive network of computers, recording information on a public ledger or private ledger by means of consensus, where a transaction cannot be verified without multiple agreements from the various nodes in any given network. This type of scenario is what is meant whenever you start hearing the word tokenization. This is basically the digitization of all things. And as we move along, every physical item will have with it a digital certificate of verification that has to be confirmed on the network somehow. And as you start to understand where this technology and this infrastructure is headed, the more you will clearly begin to see how this raised level of security and verification through uses like the blockchain, it doesn't have to be exclusively that, but technologies like it where consensus networks are being utilized for verification and trust, it's going to create a world with a lot less fraud and a lot less digital thievery and stolen identities and things like that. However, at the same time, it's clearly creating a world where access to this technology will become ever more contingent on how we can verify ourselves within that system. And this is where the prophecies of Revelation 13 should become, again, crystal clear as we march deeper into the 21st century. Another way to wrap your head around this idea of tokenization is if you look at something that is one of a kind in this world. Let's say a one-of-a-kind katana owned by an ancient samurai. Well, usually items like this come with some kind of certificate of authenticity, which is verified by the Smithsonian or other museums or some kind of archaeological society, some kind of authority. Now imagine instead of using those institutions, you basically have a giant public ledger, a blockchain of some kind, verifying and maintaining the authenticity of that object. And so you can see how physical objects can become authenticated on the blockchain, but also the digitization of it. If you take a full 3D scan of the item in order to verify it, well, now you have a virtual simulation of that katana. And in the past, the problem has been, oh, you can just copy it over and over again and you kind of have the same thing. And this is where, again, the potential use case for something like blockchain is very interesting because you can't copy it and duplicate it, even though it is a digital piece of information. And what that leads to is a world where digital items, not physical items, but just digital items also become scarce, unique, and one of a kind. The most obvious real-world example of this, for anybody that's been in the crypto space for a little bit, is crypto kitties, where you have these literally digital cats created on the Ethereum blockchain. Each crypto kitty is unique, and the only thing you can do with it is, I don't know, not much, own it. and maybe sell it for a higher price later on. But the idea here is to have these unique digital items, one-of-a-kind digital items, and that's never been possible before blockchain technology. And so you can see how tokenization goes both ways, where physical items can actually be tokenized and verified on the blockchain, and conversely, digital items also have that same kind of verification or validation that's possible on the blockchain. And what's really mind-bending is if unique digital items get assigned to some kind of physical host, whether it be a coin or even just a hard drive. The idea that that scarce piece of digital information can become stored on a physical item, and then thus that physical item be the thing that carries the value of that digital item, it's just a very strange time we're living in.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're f***ed.
Now, when we look at Revelation 13, we see the word mark, which is to be placed in or on the right hand or the forehead. This is Strong's G5480 charagma, which according to the Help Bible Studies is, quote, properly an engraving, etching, figuratively a mark providing undeniable identification, like a symbol giving irrefutable connection between parties, or a brand mark, was originally any impress on a coin or a seal, used by an engraver on a die stamp branding iron, later became the identification marker, like with an owner's unique brand mark. The biblical mark in the mark of the beast in Revelation 13 has all these meanings that really confirm what the blockchain does for you in terms of tokenization of all things, not just digital assets, but physical assets. And it's pretty appropriate if you think about this idea that it's a brand mark, originally an impress on a coin or a seal. Tokenization, same thing. So if that's not a first century description of a living person being tokenized by literally receiving an impress or a brand mark that provides undeniable identification, I don't know what is. Let me read Revelation 13 verse 16 again. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads. And it's really been interesting to see the rise of cryptocurrency and all the people that have talked about various projects that are out there, not necessarily from this biblical point of view, but definitely attuned and aware of the potential dangers, especially in recent months, as Facebook has decided to put out their cryptocurrency project. And as of this recording, they announced that they're going to have this global coin, and at the same time, they're going to have this stable coin called Libra. And I really can't finish this video without bringing up one really obvious thing about Libra, the Facebook coin, and biblical prophecy. Now, in astrology, Libra is the 7th sign in the zodiac. The sign of Libra is symbolized by the scales, as depicted in many pieces of art over the years. We know that Hosea 12:7 says, "He is a merchant, the balances of deceit are in his hands, he loveth to oppress." And the word for balances there is the same word for scales. But the passage that really should be relevant here is Revelation 6 verse 5. Here's what it says. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, or in other translations, a pair of scales in his hand. And this is Strong's 2218 zugos, and it actually means a yoke, a Jewish idea of heavy burden, comparable to the heavy yoke resting on the bullock's neck, a balance, or a pair of scales. And if you go on to verse 6, it talks about the price of wheat being very expensive, but also this idea that the wine and oil should not be harmed, which might suggest that the disparity between the haves and have-nots might increase even more in this time. So all that being said, is Facebook and the global coin Libra part of the third seal? We'll have to wait and see, but it's certainly possible that the powers that be are trying to make it the third seal.
Facebook's cryptocurrency is coming, whether we like it or not. The new crypto coin will be called Global Coin. It is planned to launch in a dozen countries by the first quarter of 2020 and is looking to start trials by the end of this year. It will be a stable coin, but it will not be tied to any single fiat currency, but will instead be linked to a basket of different currencies in order to try and prevent volatility of the coin for users in different countries. Facebook is reportedly planning big things for the coin that could include bonuses for merchants that adopt it, real-world kiosks where you could exchange fiat for Zuckbucks. And apparently Facebook employees, at least those involved in the project at first, would have the option of being paid their salaries in Global Coin. Will Global Coin be borderless? Do you really think that they are going to allow for transactions into Iran or North Korea? No way. Will Global Coin be trustless? Lol. Again, really guys, this is, no, it won't be. Will it be decentralized? No. Yes, there will be 100 nodes, but they are paying for that privilege. Apparently they're paying $10 million a piece. And the nodes will be the gatekeepers. They will do the censoring of transactions. And who are the organizations who are putting their hands up and their money on the table to run these nodes? It's our good old mates, Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and a lot of others like them. So even calling Facebook's Global Coin a cryptocurrency, to be honest, seems a bit of a stretch, as it incorporates none of the important things that we actually assign value to in the crypto community. It's not open, it's not public, it's not borderless, it's not neutral, and it sure as heck is not going to be censorship resistant. Facebook has also held talks with the CFTC over Global Coin's cryptocurrency, and recent reports indicate that Facebook has also held talks with government officials outside of just the CFTC in both the US and the UK, specifically the US Treasury and the Bank of England, which has been particularly cryptophobic, and Western Union and the credit card companies. It just really tells you everything you need to know about Global Coin, doesn't it? Is this a good time to drop in that Facebook is also a member of the Atlantic Council, along with the world's biggest intelligence agencies, the world's biggest defense contractors, the world's biggest oil companies, and the world's biggest banks? All indicators seem to point towards the scary reality that Facebook is about to become the biggest financial institution in the world. And that is not a good thing, guys. Facebook as a bank, that's gonna suck big time. I honestly see Facebook coin as almost something of a Trojan horse, a deception to get people thinking that they are using the money of the future. Just imagine that Facebook will record your transactions when you buy Bitcoin or Ethereum and then de-anonymize your address in Bitcoin so they'll know who owns what Bitcoin addresses. That's just the tip of the iceberg, of course. Funnily enough, the Facebook ledger will not be public for you and I to see, just for Facebook and their ad partners and intelligence agencies. They get all the data. And yes, the intelligence agencies are definitely going to be having a finger in this pie. We'd be crazy to think that they wouldn't. Of course, your data will be hidden from other users, which is great. That is until Facebook gets hacked and their databases get released, revealing who has how much money, what they have been spending it on. Because even if they run a distributed database, there will be loads of central databases available for exploit. You know there will. It's Facebook. It's just what they do. They will be hacked. They continue to get hacked, and it's gonna happen again. Remember, Facebook became profitable because it perfected a centralized model of vacuuming up your data, my data, everyone's data, the photos, the information about where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, and then utilizing an ad placement service to show users targeted advertisements based on that data. This operating model is the antithesis of what we're trying to build with the cryptocurrency economy.
That was CryptoLark sharing his thoughts on Facebook's global coin Libra. And if you haven't noticed, in the last couple years, YouTube has been flooded with a lot of people using crypto as part of their name to report on the various topics and news coming out of the world of cryptocurrency. And CryptoLark, being one of those people, sees the potential dangers of something like global coin. And while the mark of the beast suggests that it will be offered to anyone, you can see how Facebook isn't quite there yet, but Perhaps that's due to the fact that those countries or places or people aren't in compliance with their regulations or the government's regulations or whatever that may be. And eventually, as it becomes more mandatory to oblige to certain laws or rules, it would make sense that you cannot buy or sell unless you have the mark. And this is just on the economic side of things. We're not even talking about the worship of the image of the beast, which is a whole nother topic that we've gone through on this channel many times over the years. But to drive home this point even more, I wanted to share with you this guy named Crypto Crow. Again, I don't know if he's a believer, but his thoughts on Facebook's global coin were very, very interesting. Check this out.
I mean, here's the thing. When I think of Facebook and I think of blockchain technology and I think of everything that Facebook is looking to do, I think they should just call the coin the beast. And as I joke about that, when you have a company the size of Facebook who could usher in something like this, likely get away with and or garner the support of the government in multiple ways. They're talking that this coin, you know, the use of this coin is going to track everything. That the requirements for AML, KYC, everything that they're going to do for verifying and validating, you know, your identity and things like that. This could very well become the beast. And I was reading through a lot of this stuff and I'm thinking, man, how far are we from having a blockchain chip in our hands and foreheads? And I know this all sounds nuts, but I'm telling you, you know, we don't even use money. How many of you have used cash in the last 72 hours to the last week? How many of you have pulled cash out of your pocket and paid for something? You didn't. You used a card. You used a plastic card and traded digital numbers from one place to another to purchase something. And overall, blockchain technology, smart contracts, smart data, all of that stuff is I mean, we're heading to a place where no longer are we going to even need these cards. You see these things like block cards and things like that. Look, I'm telling you, it is within 10 years, 20 years, maybe, we are going to have implant technology that is going to basically be a part of our everyday life and everything we do. That stuff is going to be tracked. And I mean, it already is. I mean, you've got remarketing advertisements that are basically activated through pixels because of what you look for or what you Google. And sometimes I feel like what you say in your own home. And I feel like something like this Libra coin, this global coin, I'm telling you, if anybody's going to put something like that together, I could see it being them. If Facebook becomes what I think it will likely become, and the government doesn't start doing something about breaking this company up in ways that prohibit its furthering of a monopoly on multiple industries, which it now looks to be wanting to get into, it's going to become the big bad wolf of cryptocurrency. And while it's going to drive a lot of new adoption, what that adoption is going to do is going to help empower the projects, the companies, and the people involved that came before it into combating it with bigger, better things. And it doesn't matter to me how big Facebook gets. It doesn't matter to me how much support it gets from government agencies and the like, how much leeway it gets on regulation. There's always somebody bigger and better.
So there you go. That's the Crypto Crow basically saying the game is on. And the battle of what we do with this technology is pretty much here. It's on. Between people that represent the forces of good and the people that are willing to do evil for their own selfish purposes. But, you know, I don't really know what Crypto Crow believes in terms of his spiritual worldview, but the fact that he even recognizes that this technology, and in the wrong hands, can lead to this sort of reality that's been described in the Bible for thousands of years, I think that's something. I think that's proof that we're living in these really incredible times where these things are going to begin to unfold openly and at mass scales. And as you guys know, I'm not a financial advisor. This is absolutely not financial advice, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing happening. And the reality is, the US dollar was created before the internet was distributed to the world. Now that the internet is deployed a lot across the world. Now it's time for real internet money. And this internet money is just now becoming recognized as an official new asset class by the legacy economy, if you will. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's a transition period. And when there's transition, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of building and tearing down, and it's some uncertain times. But I also see this opportunity where they are going to have to do something with the dollar that's completely going to fail, and those dollars have to go somewhere. And while the so-called powers that be, they will always have a stronghold in this industry because it's economics, they still need the citizens to build the next internet, Web 3.0. And I think some of the deplatforming going on with certain content creators has to do with this push to get people to actually build that new infrastructure. And because it's such a massive task, it's not going to work simply through force, especially in our day. It has to be through the inherent desire to pursue freedom, because it's always an ebb and flow, a back and forth between times of progress based on that desire to innovate and to become more free, and then a time when those things are used for massive evil, as we saw in the 20th century with mass-scale war and even genocide. But in order to fund this process, they have to actually allow people to have money. And in my personal opinion, one way they are doing that is through the cryptocurrency infrastructure and market. And that's where I say there's an opportunity there to make sure the gospel message is within the infrastructure of this new emerging technology. Regardless of how free these things might appear, it's really contingent on the computing machines that we have access to, and as it trickles down to verification based on something in or on your right hand or the forehead, that's just one thing happening. Let's talk about the genetic engineering taking place. Let's talk about the vaccines that are being mandatory in certain places, and you have this huge confluence of chaos. But here's a real important question that believers need to think about. What is going to be your job or duty in that world? As a believer, as a follower of Jesus Christ, are you going to go hide in the woods? Or are you going to be on the front lines somewhere? What are you going to be doing? And I think every believer is going to have a different answer to this. Some people will desire to just flee to the mountains or something and hide away from all of it. And others will want to remain in populated areas and create places that continues to preach the truth within those days, where people that do repent and do come out of Babylon has a place to go and a safe community for believers. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think sitting on our hands is going to do anything. And I don't think complaining about how, oh, this change, it's moving towards the mark of the beast, and so therefore it is all evil. That perspective of cryptocurrencies from the believing community needs to be re-examined, in my opinion. And I know that might sound harsh, but the only reason why I say that is because if you criticize the advent of cryptocurrencies and say, oh, it's close to the beast, therefore it is all evil, you're not paying attention. Because the dollars that you hold, regardless if it's in paper or if it's just in digits in your bank, it's no different. It's the beast system. Now, if you hold gold, if you hold silver, great. It's a store of value, but realistically, not many people in this world, especially in the United States, living day to day, paying with little chips of gold and little chips of silver. It's just not happening.
Free gold coin or a free Snickers bar?
Yeah, take a Snickers bar.
A Snickers bar. Who needs a 10th ounce gold coin, right?
Yeah, what is it for?
Oh, just spreading around the wealth.
Oh,
Thank you.
So while gold and silver is and will remain sound money, we're at this place in time where the internet itself has created its own sound money. And keep in mind, you don't need the internet for Bitcoin to transact. Of course, it's predicated on networks and stuff, but at the same time, you don't necessarily need it, and it gets pretty technical. But that's not really the point. I want people to think about the opportunity here to participate in this next phase of time, whether it be a few decades or who knows if it's a few centuries before Christ's return. We don't know, only the Father knows. So, although it may seem like it's right around the corner, more than ever, and I would agree that it is, we don't know the timing. So why not occupy in a way that is helpful to resist against the wiles of the devil and preach the truth so that souls can be saved? And this is probably the most important time to do it, when this technology is openly beginning to construct itself. But something to keep in mind as we look at some of these things is a reminder that it all belongs to God. Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Everything belongs to God. We're just stewards. And that's kind of the age-old wisdom of believers in how to deal with money, is that you're not supposed to think that it's yours. It's not. You're just stewards. And so, people that have that selfish mentality of, oh, this is all my money, I worked hard for this money, it's mine. Well, yeah, you possess it, but it doesn't really belong to you. King David understood this in 1 Chronicles 29, verse 12, where he states, both riches and honor come from you, and you reign over all. In your hands is power and might. In your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. It's really God doing all this work. We're just stewards. We're just vessels. So again, remembering that all money belongs to God, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, this truly is one of those be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove moments for believers, where owning some digital assets in the emerging economy can be a catalyst for building or maintaining, again, outlets that preach the gospel, where we can ride the waves of innovation to find new and creative ways to minister and warn the people all around the world to repent and believe, and doing it by figuring out how to bless people along the way. Because what this technology is going to do is it's going to bank the unbanked. You're going to hear this phrase in the world of cryptocurrency, bank the unbanked. What they want to do is get everybody to have a bank account, which is a precursor to having a Mark of the Beast system. So why not make sure that during that wave of innovation and distribution of these digital banks on everybody, we Trojan horse the whole thing with a warning. Hashtag don't take the mark. Because that is going to be the thing that causes people to lose their souls if we are to believe what it was prophesied in Revelation 13. So using that phrase that you may have heard of, having some skin in the game, means that you'll have an ability to actually get things done in this emerging infrastructure and not just be toppled over by other people who happen to have a large sum of certain digital assets. And really, I think as the time approaches, we're going to see, obviously, a lot of people fall away. But at the same time, I think we're going to see a lot of people repent and come out of Babylon, so to speak. And I think we need to have places where those people can find community and be accepted and all this kind of stuff. Because to me, it's going to be one of those prodigal son moments. And remember, the father of the prodigal son was pretty wealthy. And this idea of responsible stewardship versus, being wild and purposeless with your money or wealth is built into the whole prodigal son story to begin with. So I think there's a lot to be drawn from certain principles that have been taught from the biblical worldview when it comes to money management and things of that nature. So I want to dive into a few projects here and discuss how they have tangibly began to gamify the world. Well, that does it for this video. Stay tuned for part 3 in this We Are Being Gamified series here. If you haven't checked out part 1, definitely do so. Stay tuned for part 3. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you want to support what we do here, you can go to patreon.com/FaceLikeTheSun, or you can pick up a hashtag Don't Take the Mark t-shirt as a way to start conversation about these issues. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.